Like, this is the TikTok ban. They're trying to ban it on the 19th. It looks like this is an oral hearing. I listened to it a little bit earlier. They are discussing back and forth. It says that it's getting cut off. Please, God, do not cut TikTok off. This is the one thing we have that isn't just like this American corporate entity. Please, please, guys. Trump doesn't even want it. He tried to delay it. But it's the day before Trump gets into office.
Supreme Court arguments over potential
Because TikTok helped Trump win. You know that.
ban on TikTok in the U.S. The key question.
They're trying everything. They're letting everything go. The fires at the beginning of the year, the Tesla truck that exploded, the New Orleans it's tragically giving as much money to Ukraine as possible. Starting wars, involving themselves in Syria. Guys, what we have 10 more days. What is going to happen in this next 10 days, honestly?
And does a law banning apps owned by foreign adversaries violate?
Everyone's going crazy because a lot of these blue politicians are going to be out on their ass, out of a job. So they're going to scam everyone as quick as possible and get that money so they can keep going.
The First Amendment. The law passed in May says
it's all about money. Don't forget that.
TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, must sell the app to an American company or face a ban in the U.S. in just a few days. So far, the justices have been grappling with questions about free speech, national security, and what the law truly regulates. TikTok's lawyers argue that the law targets the app's algorithm, which they say is core to how the platform expresses itself and connects users, and that regulation doesn't.
I love the TikTok algorithm. You can post something on there and guaranteed get comments and views for the most part from people that aren't followers. That's the cool thing about TikTok. Instagram is a little harder to break through the mold. Granted, I have a viral post at the moment. It's at 500,000 views.
Just hurt ByteDance as a foreign owner, but directly affects TikTok as a U.S.-based company. The attorney for a group of content creators on TikTok also argued American creators have a right to work with the publisher of their choice. Now the attorney for the U.S. government is making her case for upholding the law. And we have team coverage on this. Senior national correspondent and ABC News Live anchor Terry Moran, senior White House correspondent Selena Wang, ABC Supreme Court contributor Kate Shaw, legal contributor Kim Whaley, and contributor Google Tech Policy Fellow Mike Muse are all here to help us unpack this. Terry, let's start off with the big picture here. What stands out to you so far from the arguments, and do you feel like you're getting a sense of how the justices might be leaning?
Well, the first question is easy to answer. What stands out to me are the stakes here. This is an argument that is clearly grappling with some fundamental 21st century issues, and you can hear that.
Oh, a social media platform giving people information. The only media site that is like truly expressive of their users and not jailing you down or putting a mask over what it's doing.
In the argument,
sure, it's owned by China, but guess what? Everything else, dude, this fucking table was made in China.
The justices' questions in the intensity of the rhetorical combat here. On the one hand, the national security interest of the United States against what is an adversary nation, formally described now, the People's Republic of China. On the other hand, 170 million Americans.
Okay, this is what might happen. If World War III really breaks out here, it's because of this. Mark my words.
Speaking all kinds of things, from recipes to movie reviews to political speech, all kinds of things on this platform.
Because again, everything is about money. They're able to, all these other countries are able to sell stuff to America. What is America great at doing? Consuming content and material items. And when you can't get that line through, that's going to cause a shit ton of problems in what's been going on for the last 5 years. Could this be the tipping point? You know, this could be the tipping point when it comes down to money.
Platform, which is owned by an American company to begin with, TikTok USA, but that company owned by ByteDance, based in the Bahamas, controlled by China, and that intersection is being discussed at a very high level. My own feeling on the second question, who's winning? I'd be worried if I were TikTok because it does sound, certainly. Chief Justice John Roberts.
We need to protest this. I'm not kidding, man.
Has been very strong on deferring to Congress, which passed this law, and the president who signed it on national security interests. And it is also pretty clear to me that even liberal justices like Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson have been exploring how far the Supreme Court wants to go in refereeing the national security of the United States as defined by Congress and the president. So I'd be nervous if I were TikTok, but those free speech arguments there are very strong as well.
Kate, Noel Francisco.
It's super strong. This is America. This is literally what we're built on, is freedom of speech.
TikTok's lawyer.
It's okay to talk out of your ass. A cop told me once, I was yelling at someone. She's like, well, it's not illegal to yell. Okay, that's cool. She's like, anything you said don't even matter. You can yell as much as you want.
This hypothetical,
just don't slap the shit out of them.
Saying that if China leveraged Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos, who of course also owns Amazon, if China tried to kind of pressure him and leverage him into publishing on the New York Post content that they wanted, that the U.S. government, even in a case like that, could not force him to sell or shut down the paper. What did you make of that comparison?
Interesting comparison, and I think that
yeah, I'm surprised these billionaires haven't really come out of their pocket. I mean, a lot of them have ties with Zuckerberg and Musk. I'm surprised they didn't buy it. I don't know, dude. I don't know if they were selling it.
Maybe not going to succeed in making that succeed in convincing the justices that that's something, a comparison that is an apt one, because the federal government, as it's arguing right now, we should say that these arguments are still ongoing, is suggesting that it is not just about, potentially manipulating content as the hypo contemplated, but about a foreign adversary actually using the information that users provide to the platform.
I can understand that though, but guys, let's find a way to keep this going. And if you guys are butthurt that you're not making money, because at the end of the day, it's still about money. They're pissed they're not making money off of it.
In order to engage in kind of covert operations.
Just like America and the government does. They stick their stinky little hands in something that isn't theirs.
Recruitment and espionage, and all of that is absent from the Washington Post hypo that was being discussed earlier today. But I do think that there are these difficult lines to draw. The justices, I think, do seem...
TikTok's China-based parent company ByteDance must sell app or face a U.S. ban by January 19th. Just sell the fucker. But then they relinquish it. I don't know. TikTok would suck after that, dude. If law upheld, app could continue under new ownership or be shut down. 170 million monthly U.S. users impacted. Truth.
Sympathetic to this law for the most part. And so I agree that TikTok should be nervous at this point in the argument. Even this very capable lawyer, Noel Francisco, who was the former Trump Solicitor General and is very well known to the justices, had very rough going in front of the justices.
It was not an easy conversation. I heard most of it.
In his defense of TikTok, so too did the second lawyer who we've heard from this morning, Jeff Fisher, who represents not TikTok, the entity, but a bunch of users and creators who are challenging this law, which they say will make it very difficult for them to successfully, grow their businesses and communicate with users and buyers in the way they have come to do via TikTok. Right. There's a real question about whether if this law goes through, they could pivot to using other platforms. They say they haven't had the success on other places that they have had on TikTok. And so their First Amendment rights are being undermined by this law. I think this is actually so far a hard argument to call. I will say there is one possibility, which is there could be some type of kind of compromise or delay. Right now, this law goes into effect on January 19th, and Noel Francisco said unless the justices do something, TikTok will go dark on that date. Although
do something! I can't live without TikTok. I'm just starting to get some good views on there.
There is some question. New users wouldn't be able to download it, but maybe current users would be able to continue using it, at least for some short period. But could the justices essentially pause the effective date of this law, wait for the change in administrations and some kind of potential political compromise, as Donald Trump asked the justices to do in a filing he made last week? So I think that is one potential middle ground that we could see coming out of this case.
And Kate, I want to point out, I misspoke, I think, when I posed the question to you and said New York Post. It is correctly, as you stated, the Washington Post that Jeff Bezos owns. Mike, there was an interesting part of the questioning with Justice Barrett when she was asking whether it's TikTok's algorithm that is the speech here that needs to be protected. The attorney.
They want to know what's going on. TikTok it's probably Mark Zuckerberg behind it all. Honestly, these fucking people are evil. They don't want to watch anyone else succeed.
He answered in part yes, sort of a yes and there. Why is that so critical to this argument?
I think it's really critical, and I think really her and Gorsuch, what my takeaway is, I actually have a different tack from my fellow colleagues that were just speaking right now. I don't necessarily think that TikTok is necessarily on the ropes. I think TikTok gave a great presentation with Francisco, who was representing the company itself, and I think Fisher did an actually really good job of really humanizing it, in particular as we went and got to the U.S. Solicitor General when she began to be questioned, particularly from Thomas. Justice Thomas actually surprised me with this question about this idea of covert. What is covert? Is it any difference of covert manipulation between a U.S.-owned company and a non-U.S. company? Because what he is saying is that, if you think about in the larger context, there are ways that we have domestic terrorists here, and there are people who are living here in America who may
our own terrorists. We're terrorists to ourselves in so many small ways.
Not have America's best interests.
I feel like the people trying to shut it down are the terrorists for us or towards us that are in America.
Want to manipulate the propaganda for their own best use. Once that question got into it, I began to illuminate and was like, this is actually the core, is that this isn't just what China could do as much so as what other social media companies can do, which I've always been talking about, to which comes in Gorsuch. Gorsuch has a really technical understanding of how the TikTok and algorithm work to get to your question about Barry. Don't worry, Diane, I was going to get there. They have a fundamental they have a fundamental understanding of how the algorithm works. What Gorsuch was getting to was allow Francesco to identify what is the source code. What he is saying is that the TikTok-based U.S. company, the TikTok that's based here in the United States, uses a source code from ByteDance. But that source code is the IP that the U.S.-based company actually needs to do the algorithm that outputs the post that we see.
Oh, my God. Let's be honest. It's all about the data. It's not even about money anymore. Well, at the end of the day, it's about money, but they're desperately trying to get TikTok's data and information so they can steal it from them. It's not... Don't get fooled about it being some foreign adversary. It's lies. They want the data. The data is gold.
From the users. What they're saying is that ByteDance and China doesn't have, they may own the IP of that, but that doesn't control the manipulation. And what Francisco did was walk us through a flow chart, if you will, in terms of how that goes. The TikTok, the US-based TikTok, pulls the data from the source code, then it goes through a content moderation filter based upon the rules that are set from the U.S.
It's probably such complex AI that nothing in America can even understand this far. Because Elon Musk is not ahead in the AI race.
And then it filters out the content that the user sees, which goes to a larger question of the free speech of your question of what Barrett is saying, is that it's a free speech that is at odds. And just because it may not be the content you enjoy, it doesn't give the government the right to censor it because you don't enjoy it.
And I want to get to Kim, but quickly, I also want to pull on one other point that I heard him making, which is that because of exactly what you just explained, that ByteDance owns the source code, the IP behind the algorithm, you can't just say, okay, well, separate the U.S. portion of TikTok and call it a day because
that secret mystical ball, wizard ball.
He's saying we have to use that source code for the algorithm, and so it ends up being a completely different entity. Did I understand that
You
right?
nailed it, Diane. And which really another person who surprised me was Justice Alito. I know you and I laughed about, I didn't expect Justice Alito to use a fashion statement talking about his old shirt. But that gets to the uniqueness of what Fisher, who is representing the content users, is saying. Fisher is saying that what makes TikTok so unique is that it has a very special editorial pedigree that American users who are not celebrities, who are just ordinary Americans, who has a small mom and pop coffee shop, who's able to use this to attract incredible business to their companies. This is why they specifically love it. What Alito said, because the algorithm,
which
can't be replaced. What Alito said was, are you telling me that I love this old shirt? Because I love this old shirt, there's no other store in the mall that can replace this old shirt? Fisher responds, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because you can have somewhere in the New York Times a floor of 100 editors.
Dude, there's years worth of data. You can't replace that. It's figured it out so good. It puts your videos out there better than Instagram. You get more views. You get more people commenting.
He said that's what makes New York Times so special, is that 100 editors on that floor. You can't replicate that with a new set of editors because it becomes a different company, a different function, and a different use of the users. To what Fisher is saying is what prohibits those American content creators' free speech.
Kim, the other aspect here is the foreign adversary, foreign government, and who really controls TikTok here. Francisco says if TikTok were totally controlled by a foreign government, that this case would be very different.
Oh, yeah.
Because in that case, there's a good reason for saying this foreign adversary does not have free speech rights here in the United States. TikTok, however, based in the U.S. So where is the line when it comes to influence versus total control and separating TikTok USA, TikTok Inc., and ByteDance?
Yeah, so I think the 1,000-point view of
they just want
this
they
from
want
1,000
the code
feet above is what is the bigger danger here? I think that question gets to, can China just do its mischief through a U.S. corporation and hide behind the First Amendment because U.S. corporations?
No one's hiding behind the First Amendment. You're trying to make us feel guilty for, like, implementing our rights? What? Hiding behind the First Amendment? What is that? That's not okay.